Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. In this chapter of my China Diaries, come explore the beautiful Jiuzhaigou National Park with me. Our journey starts at Chengdu East Railway Station, where I boarded a high-speed train to the newly opened Huanglong Jiuzhai Railway Station. The train ride took a little less than 2 hours, and then I got on another bus that would take me close to the scenic area. The bus first stopped by a rest area where we could go to the bathroom and also shop for some food and clothing. If you've watched my previous videos, you'd probably know that these sausages are my favourite treat when travelling, so I picked one up here before we set off for another 2 hours on the road. It used to take about 8 to 10 hours from Chengdu by bus, but with the opening of the railway station, the whole journey has been cut down to around 4 hours in total. Jiuzhaigou is located in the north of Sichuan province and has been recognised as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO since 1992. It's most well known for its many waterfalls and colourful lakes, which are especially stunning during autumn. I plan to spend 2 days exploring the area towards the end of September. The bus dropped everyone off about a 30 minutes walk from the entrance of the scenic area, but luckily my accommodation was on the way, so I just went to check in and drop off my luggage as well. I'm staying at a hotel about 300 to 400 meters away from the entrance to the park. It's called Rize Retreat, and it's meant to have like a hot tub for people to use, but that's not available currently, which I don't really care about anyways. As with most attractions in China, you do need to purchase a ticket and provide the details of your ID. They then verify your ID when you enter the park. For Jiuzhaigou, I was able to buy a ticket through trip.com with my passport, which does make it quite convenient for foreign travelers. Once I entered the park, I joined the line for the shuttle buses, which will pick you up and drop you off at different locations in the scenic area depending on when you're entering. In the afternoon, you enter the park through the ground floor and the buses will drop you off at Nuorilang Center, which is at the intersection of the three valleys that comprise of Jiuzhaigou. For this initial bus ride, I recommend sitting on the left-hand side of the bus if you can to catch some of the natural scenery. Nuorilang Center offers many restaurants and stores where you can stock up on food and souvenirs, but more importantly, it acts as a transit point where you can take a bus up either the eastern route or the western route in Jiuzhaigou. These two valleys are called Zechawa Valley and Rize Valley respectively. I decided to take the eastern route, which dropped me off at the end destination of Changhai, which is also known as Long Lake in English. This is the biggest, largest, and also highest lake in Jiuzhaigou, being at an altitude of 3,150 meters. I'm not sure if it was the high altitude here or just me being out of shape overall, but I did feel quite out of breath. In local folklore, it's said that there's a monster in the lake and there's an old man with one arm who guards the lake. This one-armed old man in question is actually a cypress tree, also known as qishu or flag tree, and it's named for its unique branches which only grow on one side. From Long Lake, I then walked to Wucai or Five Color Pond. It's one of the smaller lakes in Jiuzhaigou, but still very beautiful and rich in colors. Despite the weather, the park was still quite crowded. From this point, it's a 17-kilometer walk until the next bus stop, so I decided to just get on here and take the bus back to Nuorilang Center, where I then walked to Nuorilang Waterfall. There's a viewing platform that you can access from across the road, which I really recommend trekking up. Because the buses departing from Nuorilang were so crowded, I decided to just walk from Nuorilang Waterfall to explore the third valley, which is called Shuzheng Valley. It was about a 2 to 3 kilometer walk from Nuorilang Waterfall to Xinyohai or Rhino Lake. This part of the park was really peaceful and quiet, and probably one of my favourite parts of day one in the national park. Day 2 was my full day in the national park. Because I entered in the morning, they direct the flow of people via the upstairs entrance. The buses in the morning will drop you off at 3 randomized points, either in the middle of Shuzheng Valley, at the end of Zechawa Valley where Long Lake is, or at the end of Rize Valley. So according to the tour guides on these buses, where the buses are directed is all randomized, and the drivers find out themselves as they depart from the entrance of the park. Unfortunately, I got dropped off at Shuzheng Valley, which means I had to do a little walk to the next bus stop before I could be picked up. The bus that picks you up at this point will then randomly drop you off at either the end of the eastern or the western valley. Again, they announce this around the time you get to the Nuorilang Center, so you can tell them that you actually need to get off and change routes if the bus is going to take you down a path you've already been. This is what happened to me because the second bus that I got on ended up being one that went towards Long Lake, which I had visited the day before, so I jumped off the bus when they paused at Nuorilang Center. The starting point of the western route, which takes you through Rize Valley, is Yuanshi Senlin or Primeval Forest. A lot of the online guides that I read actually recommended skipping this location and getting off the bus earlier because there's a 3.5 kilometer walk from this location to the next bus pickup point. Understandably, if you've only got one day in Jiuzhaigou, fitting this into your itinerary might be a little bit too tight, but if you do have multiple days in the scenic area, then I definitely recommend doing this walk. I personally found that the western route was a lot more packed than the eastern route, which I took on the first day, probably because there's just more sights to see in this side of the park. At times, I didn't really have the best experience with some of the crowds, so I really appreciated the moments of peace that I got in this part of the park. I then took a bus down from the Tian'ehai or Swan Lake pickup point to Jiuzhaigou, which is also known as Bamboo Arrow Lake. There was an option to take a longer route here rather than walk next to the roads, which I decided to take. Throughout the park and a lot of these routes, there are a lot of public toilets and also rest points that sell various snacks, including my favorite sausages, instant milk tea, and instant noodles, so I packed pretty light for my time inside the scenic area. While the prices will obviously be a little bit more expensive than you might expect for China, I still found it to be pretty reasonable. For example, my favorite grilled sausage snack was 10 RMB, which is around 2 to 3 Australian dollars, depending on the FX rate. By the time that I got to Xiongmaohai or Panda Lake, it was around time for lunch, so I got some instant noodles and just ate them by the lake. This was 15 RMB. Honestly, by this point, I was pretty fed up with being shoved around by people and had also lost my lens cap, which fell off when I was trying to get off a super crowded bus. One thing that I would flag here is that Panda Lake is one of the more popular destinations within the park. Understandably, the water here is a really gorgeous colour, so the lines to get back onto the shuttle bus here were really long and congested. Fortunately, the entire scenic area is paved throughout with about 70 kilometers of really well maintained boardwalks, and these are a really good alternative if you do have the energy to walk as a way of getting around the park. After my quick lunch break, I walked about another 2 kilometers from Panda Lake to Huahai, or Five Flower Lake, which is one of the centerpieces of the scenic area. It's known for the various colors that can be seen in the lake, and it's definitely one of the more crowded areas in the park. I'd pretty much given up on trying to get on the shuttle buses at this point, so I decided to explore the rest of Rize Valley on foot. From Five Flower Lake, I walked by Kongque Hedao or Peacock River, Jinlinghai or Golden Bell Lake, down to Chengdu Tan, which is also known as Pearl Beach. Pearl Beach was featured in the 1986 version of 西游记, which is also known as Journey to the West, and you can take photos with the various characters here. My last stop in Rize Valley was very fittingly named Jinghai or Mirror Lake. I walked along the shore here and got back on the shuttle bus down towards Shuzheng Valley. There were only a few more lakes that I wanted to see before I was ready to wrap up my time in the scenic area. I got off at the Shuzheng waterfall stop and walked by Huanglong or Dragon's Lake. It has this name because it looks like there are two dragons at the bottom of the lake, but honestly, it was a little difficult for me to make them out. I also walked by Huohuahai or Firework Lake. On sunny days, the sun is said to reflect off of the lake's surface, which looks as if there are fireworks dancing across the water. Unfortunately, both of my 2 days in the park were either met with rainy or very cloudy conditions. I continued walking down past Luweihai or Reed Lake. Reed Lake was really beautiful, and the little stream running through it is called Jade Belt River by the locals for its beautiful colours. The last stop of my trip was Penjingtan or Bonsai Beach before I got on the bus and got ready to leave the park. And that brings us to the end of my 2-day adventure in Jiuzhaigou. I really enjoyed my time here for the most part, and it was great getting away from the relentless heat that I was experiencing in Chengdu and Chongqing. In many ways, I do think Jiuzhaigou brings together the worst and the best parts of traveling in China. Outside of its big cities, China has so much to offer in terms of natural beauty, which is one of the reasons why I keep on coming back here. You can tell a lot of time and resources have been invested into the scenic area, which is well run and well maintained, but I do think more could be done to make the overall experience better and also safer for visitors. With the opening of Huanglong Jiuzhai Railway Station, getting to Jiuzhaigou has never been as convenient as it is now. So if you have even just a full day to spare, I would very much recommend fitting this into your China itinerary. As usual, feel free to leave any comments or questions down below and I'll try my best to answer them, but otherwise, thank you for watching and see you next time.